So we show a full board in attendance, Madam President. We can proceed.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Mr. Hurt, I know you have presented. Would you mind if we just give a capture before the board take the actions? Would you mind to just give a highlight?
Yeah, okay.
Item 20.
Thank you, Dr. Matecki, President Matecki. So the high-level overview of this one is that the board has been looking at CE requirements, particularly ethics and regulatory requirements, for a long time. I mean, at some point, the board increased the requirements to 50 units to be kind of on the line of a primary care healthcare profession. And so at this point, there's been provisions to not require this of people that are inactive, but also to require it of people who have been inactive to coming back to inactive. And the overall idea would be is that when renewing, licensees would have the requirement to do 4 hours in ethics and legislative regulatory work. Now, it could be all 4 units in ethics, all 4 units in legislation and regulation. Now, when we originally think of it, the thought was it was 2 hours each. Yeah, so that's kind of the place where we're at with it. It's been considered by this board a number of times, and so the language has been well considered. And so what we're bringing here today is we've just answered a number of the questions from the board, like what do other healing professions do? What are who comes up with the ethics standards? Those have been addressed. You know, the profession does the ethics standards generally is what we found out, and that these kind of requirements are very consistent with other healing arts boards in the Department of Consumer Affairs.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Mr. Bodie, I see your hands up. Would you like to add it?
Sorry, madam, I accidentally clicked on that. Please proceed.
Okay, thank you. So board members, and we hear the public and also staff has worked extensively on these items presented to us today. So does any board members do have a questions, or would we like to move, take motions? Yes, Mr. Bodia.
Thank you, Madam President. Now I do have an item. I just, in hearing the public comments, it's very encouraging to hear new commenters joining the board meeting and being a part of these public processes. A number of the comments said that they would like to be included in the development of the language. And just as is shown on the material for this agenda item under the proposed language, this material and this language has been considered for a number of years. So for those new to the board process, to the government civic process, please be aware that this is a very open and transparent process that the board has been working with the stakeholders since December 14, 2016, the meeting. So the board was working on this even prior to that. And that this is the process. So they will be able to provide more input if the board were to approve this language and move it forward for the regulatory rulemaking process. But there has been this discussion now for over 4 years. And if they just turn to the second attachment for this item, they will see the proposed language. Of note, a lot of these are technical items. For example, if you look in the blue section, the blue highlights, we're adding the number of years, the numerical value of the number of years that's spelled out preceding it, so 222 to be uniform. And then, for example, the green section, green highlights represent, indicating where there is authority for that. So on page 3 of the language, you would see pursuant to section 1399.489.1. And then again, in yellow, you see strikeouts, at least on the last page, lettering the subsections. And then there are 2 larger sections in yellow that does show those changes. And the yellow area highlights are from the 2018 board meeting. So it's just been a lot of cleanup. The original language has been in effect for been discussed for some time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodia. I see Dr. Chen, your hands is up. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I heard Mr. Bodia emphasize the same point I mentioned before. This topic has been there since, and it was actually in the statute years ago, before 1999. It's not new. It's just a resume this mandatory CE course. So I would like to make a motion, if I may.
Yes, please, Dr. Chen.
Thank you, President Mataki. I move to approve the proposed regulatory text for Title 16 CCR Section 1399.4A3 and 1399.4A9. Direct staff to submit the text to the Director of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and the Housing Agency for review. And if no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive grammatical and or technical changes to the package, and set the matter for hearing if a hearing is requested by the public.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Harabedin. So motion by Dr. Chen, second by Member Harabedin. And David, would you like to take the vote, please?
At the risk of stealing thunder from Fred, I believe we
Madam-
need to go to public comment.
Yeah,
at this
public
time.
comments. Yeah, I was about to say.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay, yes. Let's go back to the public comment, and moderator, would you like to open up for the public, please?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests.
Thank you.
All right, seeing none, would you like me to close? Oh, I apologize. We do have one individual has requested public comment. One moment while I get the attendee list back up. Individual identified as Neil. Neil, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. Thank you. This is Neil Miller from CalAtma. It's clear from the public's previous comments that everybody is in agreement here, that this is necessary. And as Ben pointed out, and I echoed, we have been working on this for years. And CalAtma has been working on this since the beginning. But I asked Jay to say, why are we being treated differently? Why are we having 4 hours and not 2? He said, well, we wanted 2 hours here or 2 hours there, or you can do 2 of this or 2 of that, but it's 4 hours in a 2-year cycle. But this is not fair. Even Jay's words, I'm not quoting him, and I'm not against Jay. I really like Jay. But I don't understand why we're having to do 4 hours and not 2. And Jay also said something to the effect of that these ethics classes and this review of medical ethics and such is done by the association. So when I tell you CAM is working on this, we are the biggest and multicultural organization in the state, and we're working on this, and we want to work on this, but we don't understand. Like it said before, the chiropractors, I think he said, one group is here. The PTs are 2 hours every 2 years, and the chiropractors is one hour per year, so it comes out the same. So I don't understand why our assessment is 4 hours. So even though there is a motion on the floor, the procedure would be, there's a motion, there's a second. Is there any discussion amongst the board members? So the board should discuss this particular issue. We're not arguing on doing this. We just don't understand where you came up with 4 hours versus everybody else too. If my notes are correct, that's what Jay said. 2 hours for the PT every 2 years, and the DC, and then he went through all the other sources that are the same sources the CalAtma is using. So we're trying to get on the same page, to use the same standard. So where did the standard go? Looking at everybody else, and then suddenly ours is doubled. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like that was our only individual who has requested public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you, moderator. Yes, Mr. Hurd?
Yeah. Hi, thank you, President Mateki. Just a point of clarification. So if you look at what I covered in the discussion, we stated that the Board of Behavioral Science requires 6 hours of laws and ethics every 2 years. So that's more than that was due for, and that's for all their 4 license types. The Physical Therapy Board is 2 hours in laws and ethics. So they are 2. Chiropractic requires 2 hours of CEs, but it's every year. So in a way, chiropractors is a similar kind of a independent practice as acupuncture, and they're requiring 4 hours every 2 years. If you look at it, they just renew every year. So I just wanted to clarify that. It's not calling it out. The other thing to mention too is that we've already covered earlier in our enforcement report that one of our biggest issues is unprofessional contact, of an ethical nature, whether it's, inappropriate touching or fraud or something along that line. The other thing to consider is that our licensees are working very independently, usually as sole proprietors, alone with people's illnesses and with their ethical ability. So that's one reason, to keep up with that. But again, in terms of the fairness, we're right there with all the other boards in the DCA. So I'll just rest with that. I just want to add that for the board members to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. So board members, any questions and discussions after we hear the public comments and the voice views? Okay, looks like no further questions. David?
Understood, Chairman. I will go ahead and call the question. This is a motion from Dr. Chen, seconded by Mr. Harabedian, it reflects the first motion at the end of the memo to place the proposed language into the regulatory process. As I call your name, please unmute and indicate whether you vote yes, no, or abstain.
Abstain.
When I get to you. Dr. Mateki.
Yes.
Kitman Chan.
Yes.
Yongping Chen.
Yes.
John Harabedian.
Yes.
Francisco Kim,
Yes.
Shudong Li,
Yes.
Ruben Osorio.
Yes.
Thank you. I show 7 votes in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Brugman. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for working hard on these items. And let's move to item number 21. Discussion and possible action to initiate a rulemaking to amend 16 CCR 1399.452.1 Standards of Practice for Telehealth Services. Mr. Hurt, please.
Hello,
Okay.
all, and here I go again. So this was this particular regulatory proposal was brought to the board at the last board meeting at a committee level, and so now we're bringing it back to the full board with some input from our regulatory legal counsel and some further work on it. So with that, I'm going to just go into it. So for the background, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Governor Newsom's executive order N4320 provided that clinics, hospitals, and other healthcare facilities and healthcare providers maximize the number of capable healthcare workers through the use of telehealth services to ensure that Californians impacted by COVID-19 are able to access medical treatment as necessary. Additionally, the governor's order N4320 aimed to reduce the spread of COVID-19, protect healthcare workers, including the use of healthcare services where possible, for any reason, not just limited to diagnosis and treatment of COVID-19 related condition. This order has allowed healthcare providers, including licensed acupuncturists, to provide medical care and advice remotely to patients employing the practice of telehealth. Earlier this year, the Acupuncture Board received many questions from licensees and the public as to whether the acupuncture profession could perform its services via electronic means. Due to the sudden need and in the absence of regulatory authority, the board issued a telehealth statement for licensed acupuncturists, providing general guidelines for the profession to follow when conducting telehealth. Business and Profession Code Section 2290.5 provides statutory authority allowing licensed acupuncturists as well as other Division II healing arts licensees to deliver healthcare via telehealth. Based on that authority, staff has identified further guidelines and requirements specific to the delivery of acupuncture services provided via telehealth as necessary. Staff brought proposed regulatory language for discussion to the Licensing and Examination Committee meeting on December 17, 2020. At the board meeting held the same day, the board voted for staff to make additional amendments as necessary based on the recent legal review and add telehealth to the 2021 rulemaking calendar and bring back the amended proposed language to the next board meeting for consideration. So the proposed amendment, staff is proposing the board adopt a new section 1399.452.1 of Article 5, Division 13.7 of Title 16 of the California Code of Regulations, titled Standard of Practice for Telehealth. So these will be in the Standard of Practice part of our regulatory section of our Practice Act. Licensees are permitted to provide acupuncture services listed in the BP section 4937 via telehealth, subject to specific circumstances. The previous proposed language brought to the board to the December 2020 Licensing and Education Committee cited BPC section 4927. The citation was changed to section 4937, which is more inclusive of all modalities and services permitted by a licensed acupuncturist. So that was just a clarification there and lining up our ducks on that. Licensees as used in this section only include licensed acupuncturists. Previously, the board language brought to the December 2020 Licensing and Education Committee meeting included acupuncture trainees enrolled in board-approved educational training programs and board-approved tutorial programs. However, this inclusion had to be removed as there was no authority under BPC section 2290.5 to allow for this. And in clarification, both of those situations are supervised by a licensee, whether they're in a training clinic or tutorial. So those services would be covered or allowed under those license supervision. So that not only was it not allowed by 2290.5, it wasn't really needed based on our current authority. Telehealth services can only be provided to patients within California. Licensees must hold a current and valid license. Licensee obtains and documents informed consent from the patients receiving services via telehealth. The informed consent covers risks of confidentiality and security, data storage policies and procedures, possibly of disruption and or interruption of services due to technological failure, insurance coverage considerations, and other issues involving incompatibility between the acupuncture services delivered in person and those delivered via telehealth. Also, factors for the licensees to consider when determining the appropriateness of telehealth services. Factors include the ability to obtain diagnostic information to provide a diagnosis and prescribe treatment, patient's diagnosis, symptoms, and medical history, patient's preference for receipt of telehealth services, the benefits, risks, and constraints resulting from the delivery via telehealth, and the nature of the services provided. Licensees are competent to deliver the services based on the knowledge, skills, and abilities relating to the delivery of acupuncture services via telehealth. Licensees are competent to deliver the information technology chosen for the telehealth services. Licensees are competent to determine how the services might differ from those delivered in person. Licensees take reasonable steps to ensure electronic data is transmitted securely. Licensees inform the patient immediately of any known data breach or unauthorized dissemination of data. Licensees complied with the Acupuncture Licensure Act, Acupuncture Board regulations, and all other applicable provisions of law and standards of care in California related to the practice of acupuncture. Failure to comply with this section constitute unprofessional conduct. So since this is new, Dr. Mateki, would you like me to go through the proposed language like point by point, or was that summary, do you think that that's adequate? And I guess I'm putting that out to the executive officer as well.
I think this is a new, if a board member is okay, I would like to go through a little bit more detail just to give everyone the education, because with the telehealth offered, you know, for practice, especially the profession, you know, the licensees are in, as more in person, as this is a fairly new with a telehealth medicine. So I would like to hear more detail if every board members are okay.
Okay, okay, I can do that, no problem at all. And it's not that, it's not very much actually. So if we go to the end of this section of item number 21, the last page, I'm just going to read the actual proposed language. So, okay, so the proposed new language is put in underline here, and everything I'm reading is going to be underlined. So we're going to add section 1399.452.1, Article 5 of Division 13.5, Title 16 of the California Code Regulations to read 1399.452.1, Standards of Practice for Telehealth. A licensee is permitted to provide acupuncture services listed in Section 4937 of the Business and Profession Code via telehealth to a patient located in California, subject to the following condition. The licensee holds a valid and current license issued by the board. The licensee shall obtain and document informed consent for the provision of acupuncture services via telehealth from the patient. Such consent shall cover concerns unique to the receipt of acupuncture services via telehealth, including risks of confidentiality and security, data storage policies, and procedures specific to telehealth. The possibility of disruption and/or interruption of services due to technological failure, insurance coverage considerations, and other issues that the licensee can reasonably anticipate regarding the incompatibility between acupuncture services delivered in person and those delivered via telehealth. So section C, it says, section C. The licensee shall determine whether delivery of acupuncture services via telehealth is appropriate after considering at least the following factors. The ability to obtain diagnostic information sufficient to determine a diagnosis and prescribe treatment. The patient's diagnosis, symptoms, and medical history. The patient's preference for receiving acupuncture services via telehealth. The nature of acupuncture services to be provided, including anticipated benefits, risks, and constraints resulting from their delivery via telehealth. No, sorry, I didn't want to give you the numbers before, but now I'm on number 5, if you're following with me. The licensee's competency to deliver such services based on whether the licensee possesses the appropriate knowledge, skills, and abilities relating to the delivery of acupuncture services via telehealth, and the informed and information technology chosen for delivery of telehealth services, and how such services might differ from those delivered in person. Okay, now section D. The licensee shall take reasonable steps to ensure that electronic data is transmitted securely, and shall inform the patient immediately if any known data breach or unauthorized dissemination of data. And section E, the licensee shall comply with the other provisions of the Acupuncture Licensure Act, Acupuncture Board regulations, and all other applicable provisions of law and standards of care in the state related to the practice of acupuncture. Failure to comply with this section constitute unprofessional conduct. Authority of this is 4933 Business and Profession Codes, reference Business and Profession Code section 2290.5, 4927, and 4937. And that concludes the new proposed regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. I know I make you work hard here. Thank you very much. So board members, we hear Mr. Hurd and his team has been work hard on this to work with the stakeholders also on this telehealth services. Board members, please, I'm open up to all of you. If you have any questions, comments, go ahead, please. Member Kim, please.
Yes, yeah. I've been hearing about from the other news sources, and yeah, it's pretty much clear. But and if there is a need, yes, the provider can do the telehealth services. But my concern is since everything we're talking about here is pretty new, because considering most of the acupuncture performed inside of clinic or inside of the treatment room, this one I think it maybe overlaps with the issue with the ethics. So maybe the ethics continuing education can be used as to address this issue. Like, for example, like sometimes you can disseminate any identities or other information of the patient without knowing it, and then later on it becomes trouble. So those kind of technical issues or other things, I think also I was approached by one of these big vendor for this telehealth. They are providing a nationwide platform services. So you have to get to know this, but you have to attend their orientation and all this. this one also the same. If we want to, or maybe there's this telehealth is happening, then as a board, you have to make sure this Treatment Act doesn't go beyond the out of our standard of ethics. So I'm thinking maybe if we could mention this in the ethics continuing education, and for example, like you have to be certified, meaning you have to attend like CPR, attend this like say 1 hour orientation for telehealth, then you could perform the telehealth like that to protect the public.
Thank you, Member Kim. Yes, Member Harabidi.
Madam President, I was just going to move to approve as amended.
Thank you. Any board members want a second? Oh, yes.
I second.
Okay.
Yong-Ping
Member Chen
Chen.
second. Yeah, Dr. Chen. Okay, Mr. Bodia, I see your hands up.
Thank you, Madam President. Just a clarification on the amendment here, because we are putting the onus of the responsibility on the licensee. They are not to do any kind of teleservices that they feel they cannot do over telehealth. So I'm curious what the amendment specifically is. I mean, I did hear Member Kim say that we want to address this in the CE ethics requirement, which we did just defer to the profession. So we are now in the process of creating a official, explaining the authority that is provided to us in the general BNP within our regulatory section, and we do have that authority. So I'm just curious as to what is it that we wanted to include here? Perhaps Member Kim would like to address that again, or if Member Harabidian, who seconded, captured that, that would be helpful for us. Thank you.
I was, just from my perspective, I was moving to approve the amendment as presented in the staff report, but if, I'm happy to retract that or accept a friendly amendment based on Member Kim's feedback. But just FYI, that was my view.
Thank you very much, Member Harabidian. Member Kim, could you please just let us know what you captured?
Oh yeah, I see there is a lot of other issues coming out of this this pandemic times. Like for example, some of my colleagues they get sued by these lawyers, law offices for ADA Act violations, and all these kind of things. So there's something that they have to watch out, and also to protect the public. So maybe it'll be up to the profession to to include this telehealth guidelines or this requirement. That was my just comment. Not I'm not saying that there's something wrong with this this language, regulatory language discussion. So yeah, so I have no problem with with this proposal.
Thank you, Member Kim, and thank you, Member Harabidian, for the clarification. Just so that we have it on the record then, the motion is for the language as proposed and amended that was brought before the board today, and that Member Kim is requesting advisement and actually informing the associations that are present and also in our minutes when reading this, that they would want to pay particular attention to this. So we can move forward with the motion to approve the language as is presented before the board today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodia. Member Harabidian, you still will move or?
Yes, motion's still on the table, and I think we have a second, so.
Okay.
I can go ahead and take the vote.
Yes, go ahead, please.
As I
Let's
call,
go ahead. Do we not need to open up to public comment?
Oh,
you're quite right. Thank you.
Yes,
let's do
public
that.
comments. Public comments, yes.
Yes, let's do the public comment first. Moderator, yes, please.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests.
It seems like our profession is quite quiet on the opportunity to have telemedicine spelled out in their code of regulations.
It looks like we do have one individual who has requested public comment. Neil, you'll be given 5 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I'll be unmuting your microphone now.
Sorry, I kept hitting the button. It wasn't going through. So in the past year, because of COVID-19, the profession had no guidance. So we had to address this the best that we could. We appreciate what limited information the band and the staff did to try to guide us, but from the professional side, the cat is kind of out of the bag. There are all these people practicing telehealth, and so how are we going to distribute this information? Is the board going to take on the responsibility? You can't really look at the associations. Even if you took all the associations, that only adds up, if you add them all, to about 2,500 people. So we're missing more than 3/4 of the profession, and since the pandemic, there are a couple of Facebook and social media sites like Cam19. They have 1,500 followers, and there are other telehealth social media that have 1,000, 500, 1,000. Some in the state, some out of the state. We're really addressing what is a national standard. They're looking at ASA. What is the American Society States Acupuncture, something like that. Well, what is it? What are they looking at? They represent like 25 to 30,000 people, and many of them are in California who don't belong to an association, but they are licensed in California, practicing telehealth. So that is my first point. How are we going to reach out to something that's already out of the bag? You're trying to tell people who've been diligently trying to survive and take care of patients. What is the process? And also, to add to all the really good work that Jay did, not to take away one bit from what Jay did, but I would add, I asked that you put amendment in there on some level that referral is in there. I know it's the standard of practice, but I think that the profession had certainly to protect the consumer, you got to point out that if something comes to you, that you make the referral. Before the board vote on this, I'm asking you to delay to at least look at what ASA, the national profession, how they have addressed this. with very specific rules and regulations of the recommendation that follow the guidelines of all other healthcare providers. Things that the AMA and the AAMA and others are putting out there in the public domain, because the social media sites, they drew from these resources, and so now they're in practice. They're treating patients. They have the protocol. You're going to tell them to stop now? You're gonna. We need to think this through a little bit more. So I'm really seriously asking you to delay this vote a month until you have a little bit deeper and wider understanding of possible unintended consequences from doing this. I know we want to do this. I know but I also know that you want to do it right. And so I'm really listening to my experience. Please, I'm telling you, waiting until the next meeting is only going to make this better. And if you don't, there may be a lot of unintended consequences, and you have no way of delivering all this. And I also, somebody said we go.
All right, the individual has been muted because we have gotten to our time limit, and we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Mary. Mary, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I'm unmuting your microphone now.
Hello, and thank you for giving me the opportunity, moderator and California Acupuncture Board. This is Mary Schultz, American Acupuncture and Integrated Medicine Institute, C provider 1436. I echo Neil's request for waiting on this adjudication and bringing a motion to bring this telemedicine thing forward. There has been plenty of talk about this on our Facebook pages, various and sundry ones, and we would like an opportunity to be able to work with the board with regard to this information. I am a member of CalAtma as well, and a member of CSOMA personally. So I would like to make that request and stand alongside Neil Miller, CalAtma, and all the other organizations for California that would also echo our request. Thank you very much.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like that was our last individual who has requested public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. So, board members, after we hear the public comments, would anyone want to rediscuss? And also staff would like to make a comments?
I think you know, yeah, there are some providers or licensees actively working over the online and talking about and discuss about these issues, whereas a lot of, I think maybe majority of the licensees, they don't, you know, they never thought about doing this kind of thing, but and also the public. But this could be an issue, but this could be just a language or technical issue, or maybe ethics. So let's put it up to the staff and the associations communication, and if it's needed, maybe you can put it on the next agenda on the next meeting, and then make a motion. That's my opinion.
So, Member Kim, just for clarification for the board, would you like to wait to take action on this item right now, want to wait, we bring back to the next meeting. Also, I just wanted the clarification. If this was the request you asked.
Let's. I mean, I don't know. Let's hear from the staff's opinion on this, because I don't see anything wrong or anything to be added or deleted out of this language, but there is a concern, so it's up to the staff.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I have Mr. Hurd and also Mr. Bodia, our executive officer. How about you start first, Mr. Bodia?
Thank you, and definitely Jay can add to this, but I'm not hearing any clear reasoning as to how this is, why this should be delayed, or the threat to public safety. This is just clarifying in regulations what has been happening, as Mr. Miller mentioned, for this whole pandemic, as we did clarify for our licensees at the beginning of the pandemic that because of the general BMP code, they do have this authority. So now we're clearly spelling this out in the California Code of Regulations specifically for our board. So we definitely can defer this to the next meeting. We can look to see if there's any changes that have happened in any of the other packages that are going through with moving these regulations into the regulatory process. But it sounds like what I was hearing, it sounds like the profession has some questions. They don't quite know what it addresses, and perhaps it deals with ethics, but there should be no difference between the ethics of being in person or over the telephone. Moreover, you shouldn't be doing some diagnostic methods over the telephone. You cannot do a pulse reading. So therefore, that should be an obvious, you can't use that as part of why you're making your diagnosis. But again, I could be ignorant as to what it is these folks are talking about on these other social media channels, and that isn't being brought before the board. This, again, the process that the board has is it's open, it's transparent, it's to bring the people in. If they want to stay on the social media, it does lead to some challenges into communicating with the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodia. Thank you. Mr. Hurd?
Thank you, President Mateki. And I would just encourage our stakeholders to carefully read Business and Profession Codes 2290.5, which is part of the packet here. That's the statutory authority that gave us the ability to further specify telehealth, particularly for acupuncturists. But there's a lot of detail in there that is industry standard for telehealth services. And I think it's also noted too is that these proposed regulations really, as Ben said, is empowering the licensee to understand that they have full scope of practice in telehealth, but it's really on them to apply those appropriately. And the idea about referring and when to refer and things like that, that should happen anytime you're practicing. Because, when you're a licensed acupuncturist, anybody can walk through that door, and you're going to have the ability to discern when something is serious and not serious. So I don't think that that's a new event going on. And the intention of this really is based on, Newsom's order, Governor Newsom's order to allow for telehealth in a period of time, which kind of allowed this to happen, like what, as Mr. Miller had mentioned. And then this is just formalizing it. And this language is very consistent with other healing arts boards that provide for telehealth. So at this point, from a staff view, this is a very well considered thing, and it's a very profession positive issue. And it does, but we do depend on the profession to be professional, right? And so we do trust in our licensees that they're qualified. So anyway, I would just encourage reading Business and Profession Code 2290.5.
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Dr. Chen? Yes, please.
Yes, President Mataki. So I do appreciate our stakeholder, Mr. Neil Miller and Ms. Mary Schultz's input. The board need to listen to the stakeholders' voice, and maybe there's some the understand like Mr. Hurd said, please read carefully all the details. I don't know if they go fully go look at that. Yeah. And I also like to know, maybe give them opportunity today to present what in their mind of different language, some other thoughts, if they can give more detail, different from this proposal, if we can give them another opportunity to fully, like Dr. Mateki said, this is new, really came out from the COVID-19. So we need a fully discussion, probably give them another chance to give comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. And I see Member Kim, your hands is up. Would you like to speak, please?
Yes, I just realized that the staff answered all the concerns that I might I was mentioning. So and every language is just clarification of all other professions standard or other activities. And so I propose to just go ahead with this motion, and then, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Member Kim. Mr. Hurd, you have any to add it?
Sorry
Okay.
about that, Amy. I'm pulling my hand down right now.
Okay, thank you. That's okay. So other board members, and you have any questions, comments? Yes, Mr. Bodia.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to point out if there was any concerns regarding unprofessional conduct, subsection E in the language does address this with the, if I may quote, the licensee shall comply with all other provisions of the Acupuncture Licensure Act, Acupuncture Board regulations, and all other applicable provisions of law and standards of care in this state related to the practice of acupuncture. Failure to comply with this section constitutes unprofessional conduct. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bodia. Board members, anyone else like to make a comment? So here is just the thought process. I, hear the public, and also I remembered the rationale, how this telehealth was brought it up. It's because, due to the COVID, I believe the stakeholders came to the board and request guidelines and also worked with the legislature for this, because almost every other profession, such as, in the medical world, definitely telehealth being expanded. And I know from our world with the physician world, we really initially not embracing anything with the telemedicine. But due to the pandemic, has been expanded. So the board is here, to work with the stakeholders. And also we definitely emphasize, the ethic should not be an issue here. I agree with Executive Officer Mr. Bodia has stated, and also Member Kim. So I know staff has been working hard on this to help with the language. I know there is a motion and a second on the table. Myself, I just don't see, if I'm not sure at this point, what the stakeholders really wanted, because I thought that this is what they come out to work with the legislature on this. So I am either way at this point. Maybe Mr. Bodia and legal chimed in and to see what the next step. We can take a vote or we can bring back to the next board meeting.
My understanding is motion placed, put forward by Member Harabidian and seconded by Dr. Chen. The board is totally welcome to table this matter until the next board meeting, currently scheduled for June. Should they want to hear, or you can open it up for public comment. I don't know, perhaps to clarify, I don't feel staff is capturing the concern of shared during public comment. It's unclear what language would be affected. And additionally, the rulemaking process is developed specifically to allow for stakeholder input. So once we notice this language for hearing, there's a 45-day comment period wherein any member of the public can write in the concern, and the board would be required to address that concern as it applies to this language. So it's up to the board what they want to do to move forward. We do have a motion on the floor. And that is all for me. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Bodia. So if the board member, if you're all okay, and I am on the same level with Mr. Bodia, as I am not quite sure, so I like to bring the public comments back, and I would like to hear what exactly they are stated, or the question here. I'm not clear here either. Because I know the board take the action, the staff is working on it, is by the request from the stakeholders. So board member, if you're okay, I would open up to the public, would like to hear more what's the question here, and then we will decide, we will table it or we're going to take action. So moderator, would you please help to bring the public back, please? Thank you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that icon with a question mark within a square located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, we have a request from Neil Miller. One moment while I get my timer up. All right, Neil, you will be given 5 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you, Madam President and members. Neil Miller from CalAtma. I'm not a telehealth provider, and none of the acupuncturists on the board are either. And so, not that I take away from how good Jay does his work, because he does, but I think that the stakeholders that do the telehealth aren't really here when you're taking a broad look at the profession and the stakeholders. And I'm always one to say, go, may make decision now. What are we waiting for? But in this case, I feel pretty strong that I don't know the questions. I don't know the reality of telehealth. We CalAtma are looking at the same sources of other states and other providers in this state to address telehealth. But I would hate for the board to go ahead and do this and then have stakeholders exercise that 45-day thing and have to visit this again. I just think that in this case, to take a deep breath and wait until June, will potentially be much more beneficial to both the regulators and stakeholders. I like I said, I don't do this, but the numbers out there of people who are doing this far outweigh all of the members of all of the associations. And my experience with these people is that most of them don't belong to associations, but they are very active practitioners, and they have a different method. It's a new world today with technology to figure out how these people communicate. And we need to figure out how we're going to communicate this message out there to everyone. So that's why I have concerns and recommended to delay. But it won't kill me if you don't. But I'm trying to make your decision possibly a better one by allowing more public comment and for them to even know this is happening. So thank you for the extra time for this comment. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Ron, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. This is Ron Zeidman from Five Branches University. I want to thank the board and the staff for moving this issue forward and for following what the other health professions are doing and were given encouragement by our governor to do. And many of our faculty are doing telehealth. And the fact that the board would give your stamp approval based on the regulations that are in place is an excellent move. And I understand what some of the stakeholders are saying, that maybe we need to look at all the details and iron them all out first. But the intent, especially during this COVID crisis, is clear. And the guidance we got from our governor for health care practitioners to be able to do this is good. And I'm glad that the board and its staff have moved forward on this. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We'll move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Mary. Mary, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, California Acupuncture Board, for your work on this issue. I do agree in part with Ron from Five Branches and with Neil Miller on behalf of CalAtma and as a CalAtma member. But I do want to offer that, yes, there should be more clarification on the language, and that acupuncturists who are practicing telemedicine health, I am not one of them, should be able to understand what the parameters are and be able to have, a way to understand it. I think that on the basis of protecting the public and the patients of acupuncture, it's a good idea. But we want to, as Neil pointed out, make it a complete thing and, anticipate, whatever is going to be in the language comment section so that it actually moves forward without delay. And I think that is a reasonable request. I might offer that I do often receive update requests and information for video links and other information by text from Marilyn Ellen's organization and others. So if there are or there is an interest in giving text updates, I think that that is a reasonable way to get the public information from the constituents of the acupuncturists, the shareholders, if you will, and that you would get more than immediate response within 24 hours that way. I don't know if the board has that capability, but I would offer that as an idea for getting the word out. In addition to social media and email, these tend to be ways to best reach people. That is all I have to offer on this issue. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like that was our last request for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, thank you, moderator.
All right, and I think I saw a quick hand raise from our executive officer. I just want to double check if he had anything to say.
Yes, yes, please.
Thank you, Dr.
Mr.
Mateki.
Yes.
So just so that clarify the board's role, the board has noticed this. It noticed this for the December meeting at committee where it was discussed, and there was no comment adversely when it was moved to move this to the full board. And right now we're hearing public comments, and we're grateful again for the participation, but we're hearing that we haven't reached out enough, whereas we have noticed our stakeholder list. We have noticed with our agendas, we are transparent in the meetings, we are broadcasting that, and now we're being advised by members of the profession that they don't practice telehealth, and therefore they're asking that we hold off on making this decision until more voices can be heard that do practice telehealth. Again, we've been noticing this meeting, and if this was an issue that is critical to these individuals, we assume that they would be on the stakeholder list and paying attention to the board's meetings. They are our licensees, therefore our laws do affect them, and they are required to keep abreast of that. It's a little confusing. Of course, the board could defer. It's just, this is clearly spelling out what's already spelled out in statute, in our regulations, and it's already happening. As another commenter said, this is being endorsed and encouraged by the governor, and especially because of the pandemic. And this will clearly make it so that acupuncturists have, they see that in our regs, just like the critical workforce, right? Essential workforce issue. Here it is being spelled out. Acupuncturists can do telehealth. It's clearly in our regulations. We are not looking to have it put anywhere else. So it's up to the board. There is a motion on the table, and the decision is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Bodier. So I want to back to the board members. Member Harabedin, and I know the motion is moved after the public comments. Would you like to comment or add? Go ahead, please.
Thank you. My motion stands. I'm happy, and I kind of echo what the executive director just said. I mean, I think we've had a fair amount of time to think about this and consider it. That being said, I'm very happy to hear other board members. If other board members think that we should table this and seek more time, I'm obviously open to that. So my motion stands, but I'm obviously open to hear from other board members.
Thank you. Member Kim, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I now understand this the rationale. As a board and the staff, they have to comply this governor's decision, and you have to put it on the this regulations language. So I think we have to go ahead, but then we have to go. And other issues arise, then it'll be the that time that we can discuss I don't think it's because you're going to miss anything out of this language. So I'll suggest to go ahead with the vote.
So Member Kim, I just want to clear, so you say as a go ahead vote?
Yes, that's right.
Thank you, thank you. Other board members? No questions? Yes, Dr. Chen?
Thank you, President Mateki. So thank you for the three stakeholders speak. So I do hear different voice, and I didn't hear, I was expecting to hear some detailed thoughts or detailed language difference from this, but I have not heard input. Maybe they'll have some more detail in later. So actually this motion have opportunity 45 days for the stakeholder, for public to give comments. So I, if Mr. Harbidian keep the motion in stand, I will keep my second.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. Our public board members, what are your thoughts? And other? Yes, Mr. Osorio.
Thank you, Dr. Mataki. I believe that we are all in understanding. I think as the motion is on the table, that we continue with the motion. It seems to me that there was some confusion before, but I think we're all in the same understanding. If that's the case, my suggestion will be to continue with the motion on the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Osorio. Dr. Lee?
Yes, I'm agreeing with, since we have the motion on the table, we just go ahead and vote it. And that's what's my opinion.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lee. Vice President, Mr. Chen? Please unmute yourself. I see your hands is there.
Yeah, I since the motion on the table and the stakeholder had a 40 days to comment if we pass this motion. So I think right now is let the motion stand up, and then the board should be talk to the professional organization to inform those information and encourage, if they have the comment, they should send it to the board, and we get 45 days, and then after the 45 days, then the board should be take the consideration to see the comment from the profession. I think we should go for the motion.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice President, Mr. Chen. So I think I appreciate all the board members for your comments, and also myself, I definitely, I know early I was kind of like go either way. I thought this will be helpful for the public. There's more opportunities, and this profession in California being considered as primary care providers. And I do know patients call in questions about the herbals and nutrition consult. So I think this is a great opportunity to step into it with the rest of the profession. In a way, I agree we can continue work on the language. So I would recommend, or I like to continue the vote. We have a motion moved by Member Harabedin and a second by Dr. Chen. So David, would you like to take the vote call, please?
Of course, Dr. Matecki. So the motion is to approve the staff proposed language and to start the regulatory process, which, as everyone has said, will include opportunities for public comment. As I call you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. It's sorry, David. Is Mr. Osorio? Your hand is up. Do you have a question?
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I don't.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Of course, no, it's quite all right. We don't want questions after the fact. We want them before. I'm going to call your name on the question. Please unmute and respond with your vote, yes, no, or abstain. Dr. Matecki.
Yes.
Kitbin Chan.
Yes.
Yongfin Chen.
Yes.
John Harabedian.
Yes.
Francisco Kim.
Yes.
Pudong Lee.
Yes.
Ruben Osorio.
Yes.
Madam Chairman, Madam President, I apologize. I show we have 7 votes in favor, none opposed. The motion passes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So let's move to our agenda items. Number 22. Discussion and possible action on the regulatory package related to align curriculum standards and approve related regulations with the statute. Mr. Brookman, thank you so much for all your help.
Well, thank you, Chairman President Matecki. I do apologize. I am new here. This is my first meeting. I will eventually get the terms correct. But here I am to discuss what is in your packet under tab 22. And this is some proposed actions for the board in connection with these are more technical amendments than some of the things we've been discussing before, but it's all concerning SB1246. And this is not the first regulatory package that we have dealt with on this particular bill, which does a lot of changes in connection with the board's education regulation and oversight. And so I'm going to read from the memo that is in your packet to summarize the status of this package and the actions that the staff is asking the board to consider. So as I said before, we've dealt with this in the prior regulatory package that the board approved in 2016, and that package is already implemented into regulations. Those have been in effect since May of 2017. Subsequently, both staff and legal reviews have found additional areas that need clarification, which is why at our August 2019 board meeting, we initiated another regulatory package in connection with this bill. So as we're working forward on getting this package through the regulatory process, there are 2 areas that we have found need some further attention from the board. First, there's an overlap between this regulatory package and the package that we have already considered at this meeting for implementation of AB2190. My colleague Christine Brothers discussed that package during yesterday's session. The overlap is specific to 2 sections, two parts of Chapter 16 in the California Code of Regulations, 16 CCR, specifically sections 1399.415 and 1399.416. So that's one area we're going to address. The other one is actually an issue with our meeting minutes. We have found that there's a conflict between the meeting minutes and the meeting recording and transcript over changes that the board already approved to 16 CCR 1399.439. This is something that the board approved in the August 2019 meeting. but we believe that there's enough of a difference between what the recordings show and what the minutes show that we need to change the minutes. So there's this, pardon me, in the situation that we're going to be working with, there's 3 separate actions that we're going to ask the board for. And I'll get to those in just a moment. But I'm going to start first with the overlap between AB 2190 and SB 1246. So in the package that we discussed earlier today for AB 2190, it's covering the application process for a credential evaluation service. And it makes other amendments to regulations affecting foreign trained applicants to ensure that the application process and education documentation aligns with the changes from AB 2190. This law came into effect on January 1 of 2017, and there's parts of both AB 2190 and SB 1246 that impact regulations 16 CCR 1399.415 and 1399.416. We don't want to duplicate our efforts here, so what we are proposing for this overlap is to handling all the changes to 1399.416 and the regulatory package that the board already discussed for AB 2190. And we're also recommending that the changes to 1399.415 be addressed in the bill in the package for SB 1246. We're bringing those issues and the proposed amendments in the language that's also under this tab are highlighted in yellow and in a double underline. Now, when the board, I've also included a portion of the relevant excerpt from the minutes of the August 2019 meeting that need to be changed. If you'll turn to that section of your packet materials, it's labeled page 19. There's a highlighted section under motions. It's about 2/3 of the way down the page. And the quoted section says, every approved educational and training program shall be required to submit to the board at least 90 days before implementation of the newly proposed curriculum on the application for board approval of curriculum as defined in section 1399.437. The application shall also include a letter, etc. Now, in what we believe is the situation is that we need to remove the of that is after the word implementation in order to accurately reflect what the board decided at that meeting. Now, our records reflect that most of the current board membership was at that meeting, and hopefully they can make sure that any suggestions we make conform with their recollections as well. So we're making several recommendations, and the first one is that the board would move to direct the staff to correct this page 19 of the August 15 and 16, 2019 minutes of the board. And the specific change would be to remove the first use of the word of in this quoted text that's been highlighted in yellow, changing 16 CCR 1399.439. The second recommended motion for the board concerns section 1399.415. And I'll refer you to the proposed language for that, which is under this tab. It's the very last page under this tab. What the amendments are doing here, the relatively technical changes reflecting some housekeeping. They're non-substantive. As we look in section 1399.415, documentation of training, subsection A, each applicant shall have completed the education or tutorial requirements set forth in, and this is where the change is being made. We're referring to a specific section rather than a more generic reference to these regulations. And also we are striking the entirety of subsection C, which reads, all applicants applying for examination shall meet the minimum educational or tutorial requirements set forth in these regulations at least 30 days prior to the date of the examination for which the application has been made. And those are the sole changes being made to section 1399.415. Finally, we are recommending a third motion, and this refers to section 1399.416. We would move, and this is basically a motion approving the splitting of these regulations between these two regulatory packages. So the motion would be that the board moves to approve removing the proposed regulatory text for 16 CCR 1399.416 as part of this package, the SB1246 aligned curriculum standards and approval related regulations with statutory package, and direct staff to take up any amendments to 16 CCR 1399.416 as part of the AB2190 package to bring to the board for consideration. At this point, Fred, I realize that this is kind of something that's been now done in reverse, so I need some guidance from you, sir.
I'm sorry. So what was the, could you repeat the question?
So in connection with this third motion, it's referring to items that the board has already acted on. The specific package that for AB 2190 was already approved by the board earlier in this meeting. So I'm not sure if this third recommended motion is now moot.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, so is the motion, okay, so there's several options of motions, correct?
There's three different actions that we're talking about, and I'm specifically dealing with the one about section 1399.416.
I don't see on the agenda. Hold on a second.
So, so the AB 2190 package is part of the Licensing and Examination Committee meeting, and because the committee moved to have the full board consider it, that was done during the report of the Licensing Committee during the full board meeting.
Madam President, would it be possible for just to take maybe like a short 5-minute break for me just to take a look at this issue?
Yes, please. It's a 3:01. Maybe let's do 10 minutes.
Okay.
And
yeah.
Go ahead, ma'am. I just apologize for the derailment here.
No. The first time I attended the board meeting, you're doing great, Mr. Bergman.
Thank
so
you.
don't be apologize. Yes, so I like to take 10 minutes break. It's a 3:02. Let's coming back. Oh, maybe let's do 3:15 sharp. Thank you.
Thank you.
3:15. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so hope all the board members are back and staff is back. And I really appreciate everyone being very patient with us. So I think we do need to do roll call.
I'm
Okay.
here, Madam President. I can take care of the roll if you'd like.
Yes, please. Yes.
As I call your name, please let us know that you are here. Dr. Mateki.
Yes.
Kitman Chan.
Yes.
Youngping Chen.
Here.
John Harabedian.
Here.
Francisco Kim.
Here.
Shudong Li.
Here.
Ruben Osorio.
Yeah.
Right, so I hear 7 people present. All board members are present, Madam President, and we can continue with the meeting.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Right. So before we took the break, basically we had to there was a technical question that needed addressing, and because of because the full board acted on the AB 2190 regulatory package yesterday, the third motion that I was discussing in connection with the SB 1246 package has been rendered moot. We do not actually need to take that action. So at this point, we're really only dealing with two staff proposed actions for the board to consider. The one to correct the minutes of the August 2019 meeting to better reflect what we believe to be the board's intent, and the other to make some non-substantive changes to section 1399.415. And again, if you have your packets materials with you, the affected page of the minutes follows the memo that's under tab 22. We are asking that the board consider removing an "of" from the quoted text on page 19. It's also highlighted for your convenience. And to remove the "of" that is after the word implementation and before the word "the." And the proposed language for section 415 is also included in the packet. It's the last page of your packet. The highlighted and underlined sections and strike through reflect the proposed changes there as well. And that would simply be make the language more specific, referring in subsection A to a specific part of regulations rather than referring to regulations, and then striking through a language that refers to date of examination, and which is no longer apt, given that we are now administering the exams more than twice per year. So at this point, I'm finished with my presentation, Madam President. So if there are any questions from the board, I'm happy to address them.
Thank you, Mr. Brookman. Great work for being the first time joining our meeting. So board members, so let's see this. I opened up for discussion for board members. Then I would like to open up to the public first before the board to vote if it's okay with everyone. So board members, if you have any comment and with the presentation from Mr. Brookman. No comments?
Can I just ask a quick question? So on the question of whether we need to amend 1399.439, I think it is, the deletion of, is the reason why was that the point that's become moot, or was that something else? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, certainly. It's not the first motion we were talking about in the memo. It's the last memo, the last motion that we were talking about in the memo, which refers to section 1399.416. That's part of the AB 2190 package that the board considered during proceedings yesterday.
Okay, so you still want a motion on the 1399.439, and is the reason why the "of" in there is problematic because it messes it, the way it reads with the "of" is basically they would bring it to us after they propose a curriculum and not before. What's the significance of the "of"?
The specific request here is not, we're not asking you to reapprove language, we're asking you to change the minutes because we believe that "of" is not actually part of what the board decided to do.
Right. No, I get that. No, I appreciate that.
Okay.
But I guess why does it matter if the "of" is in there or not?
We believe that the removing the "of" provides clarification or some additional clarity to the language, makes it a little easier to understand what is being asked.
Yeah, I guess I'm just not seeing why it's material. Like I'm just not really seeing why why the "of" being in there or not in there is an issue at all. So I don't know if Ben or if anyone else can just clarify why. I mean, I'm not against us moving to take it out, or I'm not against moving to just clarify what the minutes reflect, but I guess I'm missing the point.
And I agree with you, John, as well. This is more of a technicality that was brought forward by our legal counsel, and perhaps, I'm sorry, our legal counsel.
I actually could provide some additional input here if that's acceptable.
Please.
So as my take on what the board actually approved suggests that there should be a pause after that implementation, that when the submission is at least 90 days before implementation, and what they're submitting is the newly proposed curriculum on the application for board approval. That if that of is there, it's only referring to the date. If the of is not there, we're making clear what the date is, and we're also making clear what we're asking of applicants.
Yeah. I got it. Okay. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. I see it now. Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate it giving me the opportunity to clarify.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Harabini, and thank you, Mr. Bergman. Anyone else, other board members? No questions? Okay. Moderator, would like to open up to the public for comments on this, and then we will come back for the board to take the actions.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
Oh,
Thank
I
you.
apologize. Someone snuck in right at the last moment. Individual identified as Willow, you will be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Okay, hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't go through with you guys, but I know it will start public comment. So then I just want to use this time to share my just like strong feel about the application of Chinese herbs. So first, I want to just ask you guys, because
Point of order, I'm sorry, we're going to have to stop this comment. This is not related to this agenda item. If you'd like to bring this up during...
I thought that's, like you have a for future topic, no?
That will be after this.
Oh, sorry. Okay, then I just wait then.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
In that case, it looks like there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please.
All right, one moment. All right, Q&A panel is now closed.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, board members, if no further questions, comments, and would we like to take action? Anyone want to move?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the option 2 as amended.
Okay, Member Kim, there is a recommended motion language there. There is a 2 motion, number 1, number 2. So which?
Madam President?
To clarify,
Yes.
Go ahead, Fred.
Oh, for this one, since there's 2 separate motions, the board would need to vote twice. So a vote on each respective motion.
Okay.
Right. Staff is asking for board members to do both of those, and in order would be best. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Member Kim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the amendment for CCR 1399.439 as suggested by the staff.
I'll go ahead and read that motion out. Move to direct staff to correct page 19 of the August 15th through 16th of 2019 minutes of the board. The specific change is to remove the first use of the word "of" in the quoted text, changing Chapter 16 CCR 1399.439. Do we have a second?
1 second.
Seconded by Member Harabidian. Madam President, may we open it up for public comment?
I thought, okay, let's do it. Open up for the public comment. Yes.
Since we just take a motion, yeah.
Right, right. Thank you.
All right.
Yes, moderator.
This is the moderator at the direction of the board. I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on the motion for item number 22, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay.
So I'm ready to take the vote, Madam President.
Yes, please, Mr. Bruggeman.
One moment, if I may ask
Of
for
course.
legal counsel. Being that some of the members weren't present, are they, for those members that weren't there, I believe Dr. Chen wasn't at that meeting. Is she allowed to vote on this?
This is Fred Chen, DCA Legal Counsel. Yes, they board members who were not present can rely on those board members who were present at that meeting to make the decision.
Thank you. Dr. Chen, you can vote on this.
Thank you.
All right, as I call your name, please please unmute and respond with your vote, yes, no, or abstain. Dr. Mateki,
Yes.
Kitman Chan,
Yes.
Yongping Chen,
Yes.
John Harabedian,
Yes.
Francisco Kim,
Yes.
Shudong Lee,
Yes.
Ruben Osorio.
Yes.
Thank you. I show 7 votes, all in favor, none opposed. The motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's move on to the second one about the section 1399.415. Anyone want to make a motion? Board members? I will do it. A motion to approve the proposed regulatory text for Title 16 CCR Section 1399.415 as a part of the SB1246 Aligned Curriculum Standards and Approval Regulated Regulations with the statutory package. Direct staff to submit the text to the Director of Consumer Affairs and the Business Consumer Services and Housing Agency for review. And if no adverse comments are received, authorize the executive officer to take all steps necessary to initiate the rulemaking process, make any non-substantive grammatical and/or technical changes to the package, and set the matter for hearing if a hearing is requested by a member of the public. Do I have a second here?
I second that.
Thank you, Mr. Osorio. So Member Osorio, second. So let's open up to the public. Moderator, please.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this motion, please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. All right, seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
I can go ahead and call the vote, Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Brookman, please.
So this is the motion on section 1399.415. As I call your name, please unmute and let us know if you're going to vote yes, no, or abstain. Dr. Mateki,
Yes.
Kitman Chan,
Yes.
Yongping Chen,
Yes.
John Harabedian,
Yes.
Francisco Kim,
Yes.
Shudong Li,
Yes.
Ruben Osorio.
Yes.
Thank you. I show 7 votes all in favor, no votes in opposition. The motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Brookman, for your hard work. So I would like to, I know this morning we had an agenda on the number 17, but I like to do the number 23, future agenda items first, and then we will back to this morning, the item 17, due to the public could not get on the IT technical problems. So I just want to give everyone update the orders. So let's move on to the item number 23, future agendas. Am I okay here? Sorry about that. Seems like I have a lot of voice here.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Okay, thank you. So for board members, what would you like to see as a future agenda items? And I wanted to open up to all the board members first. Please unmute your phone. No one? Oh, Dr. Chen, go ahead, please.
Thank you, President Mataki. So I just from what we were discussing about the telehealth, and I can see the stakeholders, licensed professionals, they really put a concern about that telehealth and also about the ethics as overlap of these two. Actually, the telehealth, the main part of telehealth for acupuncture profession is not acupuncture, it is herbal medicine. So it raised the concern about how to, for board, how to put some attention to make sure the public get safety delivery of this herbal. So if possible, I would like to see this discussion in the next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chen. So just for my own clarification is, you mentioned about the telehealth issues, hear public comments, and hear the question or the statement. The telehealth for the acupuncture profession is more related to the herbals, questions, maybe counselings, so safeties. So maybe you want to bring the agenda items, a discussion on herbs. If that's correct?
Yes, about
Okay.
the how to deliver herbal in situation like a COVID-19 pandemic. See, this is something new. So yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Chen. Other board members would like to see any future agenda items? So I maybe add, or maybe just for my own education, Mr. Bodia, maybe you can help me and your staff can help me. Being on the board for a while, and every day I'm learning through this board meeting. So here, I just want, maybe there's a future discussion on this. One side, I feel, the acupuncture profession in California classified as a primary care provider, especially in the works comps, but even in other situations, I believe currently is classified as a primary care provider. And I know the CEU, the continuing education, is a 50 units. And this is aligned with medical board because we have 50 units also. So I don't know this is being discussed or not. So one side, I know this profession is a very high standard, very different than other state, and I'm all for it. But then there's a comments make this profession compared to with other healing arts, such as physical therapy or chiropractic practice. From what I understand, their CEUs is around maybe 35 units or 30 units. The question, because sometimes with where we aligned with a certain requirement, I'm just want to throw on the table is if this any the future, maybe there's such a discussion. I like to hear more from the public and from the stakeholders. So where would for the board, the directions, certain questions we will direct aligned with the healing arts boards, with others, certain requests, and we aligned with the medical boards. I don't know where is the other healing arts board have a 50 units, CEUs or continuing education. So I understand maybe this is being discussed in the past, maybe in the future. So I like to hear more from the public on this. So that's one of my items, agenda items, maybe in the future can be discussed or put on the agenda. Any other board members? No? Okay, so moderator, would you like to open up to the public for the comments, please?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. And just as a reminder, this is for comments for future agenda items. Please click that Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. It looks like we do have a couple individuals who have requested public comment. We will go with our first individual, identified as Dylan. Dylan, you will be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Hi, this is Dylan Stan from Net of Knowledge again. Thanks so much to all the board members and staff and everyone for hearing our concerns earlier today and for hearing my comment now as we wrap up. I would like to request to the members that they consider as a future agenda item some actionable steps for the continuing education concerns that we discussed earlier today. Specifically, I would like to request that you please add to your rulemaking calendar as soon as possible the adoption of regulations that set a separate fee system for the renewal of previously approved courses where there's no change in content. I know the board meets only a few times a year and that progress can take time. However, I want to reiterate that this is time sensitive. Businesses are being forced to make changes to their business models right away. And we are listening intently today to see if the board will choose to act on the concerns that we have raised. We were very hopeful to hear Mr. Kim and Mr. Chan's general support for our concerns, and especially Mr. Harbedian as well. You had some great ideas for some possible solutions to the fee issue. My question is, what are our next steps? We sent a letter from over 30 companies, stakeholders, who make up a majority of the industry. Our discussion with staff, the couple that we've had so far, they've been cordial, but they've only gone so far. So how can we continue to work together to make progress on this before the next board meeting so that the next board meeting can be effective? I want to add to what Greg said earlier. I too have heard from many small businesses who have told me that they will either stop getting their courses approved with the California Acupuncture Board altogether, and some have even said that they will need to go out of business. I've heard that from a few people, including Greg. And again, large businesses will need to make immediate reductions to their offerings to Californians in the coming weeks. So we're really listening to what's going to happen. You know, I want to reiterate again, this is a matter of concern for the board because educational availability is essential to keeping licensees offering their best services to the public. I want to clarify also, despite what has been mentioned earlier, that the board does have the legal ability right now. Right now, you have the legal ability within the current laws to make these regulatory changes. You can read our letter. We go through it very specifically. We've sought expert advice from a few different sources. And we request that the board acts quickly to implement a rulemaking process that will allow us to avoid this situation that will have a major impact on the acupuncture profession in California. Please add an actionable item for this to your next agenda. And please let us know how we can work together in the meantime. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our next individual as requested public comment. Neil Miller, you will be given 5 minutes to speak in a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Neil Miller, CalAtma. I would like to make public comment on the board's comments first before I make mine. I think that's appropriate. Madam President talked about the 50 hours, and it really goes back to history. And this board has, because of institutional memory, hasn't been here that long. They really need to address this issue. And I have a question related to that, because if we teach a 4-hour ethics and law class, do we need to reapply 4 times a year to pay the application fees each time? If we want to run this class quarterly for the whole year, do we have to fill out the application 4 times? If we run the same class in Korean, Chinese, or Japanese, do we need to pay another 12 times? Because that would be applying for the same class run in 1 year's time 16 times. So that kind of highlights the argument. And now my time should start because I have to make my presentation for future agenda items. They're different than making public comment on the board's comments. This is from Jock from Empress College, who lost his link and asked me to say this, so it's actually not my point. But he asked for injection therapy, especially if we do COVID-19 variant or another pandemic. That's his comment. My comments are this, for future. Discuss the past 3,800-hour California Acupuncture Board recommended regarding the minimal level of education, entry level, versus today's Wild West show of regulations, no regulations, by ACOM approved schools. So this is part of the history, and I think that this board should be aware of the fact that the acupuncture board said 3,800 was minimum needed. Also, I want on the agenda to discuss the ACOM racist, anti-Asian ESL language exclusion in their doctoral programs. And last is Oriental versus Asian massage. For 16 years, I have been requesting the cabinet to address this racist anti-Asian language. We are acupuncturists held to a different standard than other medical providers. Oriental Asian massage has no current procedural terminology or CPT code and is not eligible for insurance reimbursement like manual therapy code 97140. Why are we held to a different standard than physical therapists and chiropractors and athletic trainers? This is racist policy. Oriental Asian massage is also the disgusting code word for prostitution and sex trafficking of Asian women in California. The FBI clearly has made multiple arrests. See clearly frequent use of Oriental Asian massage, prostitution, and human trafficking. Our female Asian acupuncturists are taking this quite seriously. Many report in their career in acupuncturists, men calling them for acupuncture, but it was obvious they were looking for sex and some kind of a happy ending. Many have reported being assaulted. Many allow this racist, we cannot allow this racist Oriental Asian language to continue. This debate has us regulating primary health care medical profession. That's who we are. But this puts women at risk of assault. And recently, you can see these attacks on Asian women. People are dying. Our team at CalAtma makes this one of our top priorities. As long as all the people who've been on this board, you have seen me argue. I have been arguing this for the past 2 decades. And now it's very serious. And it follows the logic that you need to put the things in regulation, in statute. The word Oriental appears in regulation.
30 seconds.
But it's been eliminated in statute. And I'm done with 10 seconds to go.
All right, this is the moderator when we move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Adam. One moment while I find you in the attendee list. All right, you will be given 3 minutes to speak in a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you, everybody. I also thank the board for all their care and attention to the acupuncture profession. Working globally with a lot of different agencies and different states, I can say that a lot of what the California Acupuncture Board is very cutting edge in protecting the public, but also the acupuncture profession itself, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you again for listening to our concerns about the lack of CEU renewal fees. So what I'd like to ask is that we please place on the agenda creation of renewal fees and a renewal fee structure for CEU courses, especially for CEU courses that have no change in content. I'd really like to take a look at that. Again, thank you, everyone, and especially special thanks to the board members and staff for hearing our concerns in advance and really taking a look at this issue. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator. We'll move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Mary. Mary, you will be given 3 minutes to speak in a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you to the board, and I want to just reiterate and follow up on everything that everyone has mentioned before. Dylan, Neil Miller, Adam Smith. I want to applaud the board for all of its consideration and openness and hearing from us, the providers of CEUs, as well as licensed acupuncturists on the items that were presented to the board today. I would like for future agenda consideration to reiterate the requests of Dylan and Neil Miller and Adam Smith, and add that I would like to also have something with regard to our movement toward a national standard and what we as California can do to support those efforts. and maybe possibly even develop a committee to work with other states in that effort. I would also like to, as a CEU provider, to reiterate the need for a special schedule for people that are CEU providers that offer less than 20 classes a year, to have a special schedule and a special fees in terms of what we could pay in terms of excuse me, if things are not changed in those classes and the information remains the same in terms of, legal requirements or guidelines for practice. A secondary thing I wanted to also mention is the definitions of acupuncture and acupuncture practice across the board, that any and all laws that mention this that are California statutes or codes, that they all match. And I would like that to be considered as a future agenda item, that we would review those statutes and those codes, and that we would be assured that things that are inside our practice, as was already mentioned, the bloodletting, laser, these other things that are mentioned, that they are understood as part of our practice and that we are not prevented from doing those as licensed acupuncturists. So these are the requests that I make for the future agenda items, and this is my comments. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and we will move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. And just as a quick reminder, we are only taking one comment at a time. We're taking comments in order received, so please only submit a comment once. Additionally, we are only doing 3 minutes to speak. We allotted 5 minutes for the one individual because they have a stutter and they need more time to speak. So we will move on to our next individual, identified as Philip. Philip, you will be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Thank you. I want to make a proposal, as Neil Miller just mentioned about the oriental body massage. Something like that. That's reputation has been deteriorated, and we actually, what we are practicing in traditional medicine, we are doing the pain management. That's a part of the medicine. It's not just a relaxation massage. So I think it's the time to propose to set another professional, and including education and management. I propose today, I don't think I have enough time to make the full proposal, but briefly, as a proposal to establish a traditional medicine pain management council. It's called the TMPC. That's initially motivated by our California University, Silicon Valley, 5 branches, and herbal medicine associations, and another practitioner, the pain management practitioner associations. And the mission for this council will be to do the trainings and professional management for the pain management therapy, and also do the enforcement for the corresponding career, and also provide the platform and referrals of qualified pain management professionals to work potentially for hospitals or other groups, including rehab centers and so on. The scope of practice will be traditional medicine pain management therapy, primarily applies hand-on healings associated with the Chinese medicine materials such as scraping board and herbal oils and essential oils and board, herbal heating pads, and so on. This is non-invasive, safe, effective therapy. And the structure, maybe that's under the acupuncture board, CB is management, maybe part of one of the committees, like
30 seconds.
we have pain management committees, and also potentially we have another herbal medicine committees to do the management for herbal medicine, and also Qigong Taiji committees, and so on. I will I'll make the written proposal to the board and maybe board members by email in the future. Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our next individual who has requested public comment. Individual identified as Yoon. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now. Yoon, your microphone is now unmuted. All right, it looks like we might be having some audio issues with our public member. Yoon, you may want to try connecting your audio through your phone or re-logging back into the WebEx session. In the meantime, I will move on to our next individual and then we will follow up once Yoon has rejoined. So in the meantime, we will move on to Willow. Willow, you will be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't listen carefully for the previous session. So yes, about the Chinese herbs, because you mentioned the telehealth. Yeah, so in the past year, many of the acupuncturists has, provide decent treatment for COVID-19 and other diseases. So then, but the problem come out, through the patient. I know that, some of them took the herbs, but then get things worse. Okay, so Chinese herbs, the safety is always a problem. That's why many physicians and they refuse, the patient to take herbs. So then, because Delta supplement is regulated, Chinese herbs is regulated as a Delta supplement. So I'm just wondering, shall the Board of Acupuncture supervise the application of Chinese herbs, or does the board should supervise, or, shall we have another certificate for that? Because, I'm also NCC AOM member. So then they have certificate for Chinese herbs specifically. So then, but if just like continues the current situation, the acupuncturist, the reputation will be ruined because the misuse of some acupuncturists, with the Chinese herbs, especially the side effect, or some people, they don't know the drug herb interaction. So I'm a licensed acupuncture and also the president of American Association of Chinese Herbs. What we want to is just want to let people know how to use the Chinese herbs safely and effectively. So then I just suggest in the next agenda, so if possible, maybe the board member would think about, whether we should set up a committee, especially
30 seconds.
the expert committee of Chinese herbs, to discuss how to guide the acupuncturists to use the herbs safely, and also how to work with Department of Public Health or Consumer Department, to let the customer, report the side effect and, use correctly instead of misuse. Yeah, so, but anyway, in China, Chinese herb is like a most commonly used treatment method.
I apologize. We have gone over the allotted time, so we will be moving on to our next individual who has requested public comment. It looks like Yoon has rejoined. Yoon, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 30-second warning. I am unmuting your microphone now.
Great. This is Yoon Kim from Empress College. I'd like the board to consider increasing acupuncture's scope of practice in California to include injection therapy As you know, there are other states that grant this modality to acupuncturists, including Florida. Given the COVID situation, I think there's opportunity for acupuncturists to be able to administer vaccination. We know that it had been a problem. There had been a dearth of licensed health professionals to be able to administer vaccination. And given the potential for a variant in the fall, another breakout, I think that it would make sense for acupuncturists to have the ability to do injection therapy. Thank you.
All right, this is the moderator, and it looks like that was our last individual who has requested public comment. Would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, and I see there's some hands up with our board members. So just bear with me. I want to come back to our board members now after maybe you hear the public comments, or maybe you have some other ideas you would like to speak. So first with Mr. Osorio.
Thank you, Dr. Mataki.
Yes.
Yes, I would like to put on the agenda, if we could, please, if there is a form that at the clinic, at the acupuncture clinics, are handed out to their patients before being seen. If there's a form, I would like to see if we can go through it and maybe renew it or re-update it, if that's possible.
Okay, Mr. Osorio, just for my own clarification, you mean the form, is this for consent form? Or this is a form for education flyers, or so what's I'm sorry.
Yeah, the consent form. I know that there's sometimes cases with the patients, or even if it is a underage patient, sometimes that kind of thing is. I would like to see if we can go through it and maybe update it.
Thank you. So I'm not sure where this question will go, but I know with the procedure in the office, we always have a consent form. Maybe Mr. Bodier or Jay or anybody else maybe are legal. So how we may be looking into it, or do you have any idea about this? We can discuss it later.
If we could put it on the agenda, if that's possible.
As far as I know, as a practitioner, yeah, the consent form before any treatment is mandatory. If you don't have it, you will be cited for violation of the code. So you don't have to. If you don't sign it, that'll be the problem. But otherwise, they will be asking you to sign it. So I think that's the current situation.
Okay. Madam President, this is Fred Chen Yu, DCA Legal. Yes. So again, just to be clear, for the record, so is the request to talk about a consent form and a consent form that the patient must fill out before, before treatment is to start?
Yes, that is correct. I'd like to know if there's a way that we can revise it and maybe it need to be updated, all in mind with the number of cases that we have and are presented to us. Many of times, probably maybe if that kind of thing could be updated and prevent this type of things to happen.
Okay.
We'll look into where consent forms, if it even falls into our regulations, and we'll let you guys know.
Right. And maybe that's association. So not sure about that. Yes, but we will look into it. Thank you, legal, Mr. Chen Yu and Ben. So I see there's a couple more hands. Let's go with Dr. Lee, Shudong Lee. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, President. This is Shudong Lee. I just heard the public comments for the ones the Chinese herb and also the other ones for regarding Taiji and Qigong for supported, public health, and especially during the COVID-19. And they have a lot of Chinese herbal medicines has been proofs is strongly supported for health, personal health, and also for recovery for the COVID. But we need to be carefully to raising this kind of like the suggestions, like have the committee, like expert committee, to sponsor this, support this, or overview this, and or draft some in the future agenda, we can have some ideally to regulate all the oversee the structures or regulations. And the Chinese herb and Taiji too, Taiji and Qigong, they have a many of a study, like PubNet have already like over 270 studies regarding for the Taiji and health, Taiji and Qigong, to be benefit for like arthritis, for pain management, for anxiety or immune system, such as, many of the study already prove that. But as public members, if you raise this future in the future agenda, we suggest really needed to be overview all the qualifications or how you to use it. All this is teaching methods or the herbal medicines, how the side effect. We need to be careful overview. So I think it's a good idea to in the future agenda we can get some idea for form a expert committees to overview all these matters and to be better protect our public communities. Yeah, that's my comments on the
Thank
future
you.
agenda. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Okay, member Dr. Chen, I see your hands raised.
Yes, President Mataki. I just want to follow Mr. Ostoro's idea. So I want to bring up what I understand we practice in the clinic right now. Actually, as I understand, I have all the consent form for each patient. It is because the insurance, malpractice insurance requirement. If I don't give the patient a consent form, then the malpractice insurance will not cover my practice if anything come up with the suit. So that's a requirement. I'm not sure if, okay. So then when we practice, we are required to have the malpractice insurance, right? If the regulation are, this question to the legal, Mr. Fred Chayo, if the licensee, they don't have malpractice insurance, they cannot practice, right? Just like if they don't have, that's different. If people don't have a car insurance, it's illegal, right? Some people do. So what is the law and regulation here?
I'm sorry. This is Fred Chain, DC Legal. But I think right now we are, discussing future agenda items. I mean, is that something you would like to bring up? You'd like to see be brought up in front of the board as a future agenda item?
Okay. I mean, should we put this on next? If we already have a requirement for the consent form, then we don't need to discuss. If we don't, then it's necessary to discuss. That's my point. Sorry if I did not clear.
Oh, okay. Unfortunately, right now, because we are this item is really just for, to talk about what item to put on the agenda in the future. We can't really discuss in detail as to what certain requirements are in terms of issues surrounding the board. So right now we're just talking about what item to put on the agenda in the future.
Dr. Chen, we will
Thank
go
you.
ahead and list this as a suggested future agenda item and reach out to you with results of whether we can do it. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
And just as a point of order, obviously we can't do all of these items, and this is a process wherein the board president establishes the agenda, and we do have strategic plan items to go, but this is our opportunity to hear from the public and from the members about suggested future agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Bodia. Thank you, everyone. Does anyone else have board members? Member Kim, I see your hands is up. Yes, please.
Yeah, I am concerned about those Mr. Dillon's request.
This is a Member Kim, I'm sorry. So this is a future agenda items if you like to see for the board. All right. So I'm sorry. Let's keep it on the agenda items. This is for the future agenda items.
Yeah, I know. I just want to make a comment on some of the suggestions to be on the agenda.
Yes.
Some of them are actually needs to be discussed within the profession or association, but board is not like a town hall meeting. Maybe we can discuss more in the future for more focused ones. That, for example, some of them needs to be discussed within the profession and then go to the the state legislature process, and then maybe board can act as a regulator or the other related agency. But some of them are just I think we cannot handle here in the board. That's what I feel.
So let me see, just hear you clearly. So you mentioned maybe there is some future, like a town hall meeting, to bring the questions, the public questions, to discuss certain request. And I see legal, Mr. Chang Yu, you would like to.
Yeah, Madam President, I think, I mean, please correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I understand the request to be maybe an item discussing the scope of what the board can do or cannot do. Is that my understanding what the request for future agenda item is?
My capture for Member Kim's request is that what he's saying is that a number of the items brought up by some of our public members cannot be handled within the context of the board and should be addressed as a town hall or some association meeting within the industry, and to also address those items with the legislature. Member Kim, did I capture that correctly?
That's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Okay. Anyone else? I see Dr. Lee, I think I answered, or this is a new request. All right. Okay, thank you. So I understand early we were with the item 17 because of the technical glitch or the problem. So the public did not have a chance to make a comment for the items not on the agenda, but it may be some of your requests or questions being already answered in the future agenda items. So I'm just want to go back to give public another chance, because early in the morning, you could not have the chance. So let's, if a board member, please bear with me. I just want to make sure we honor our words. Let's bring the public back. Moderator, would you please help?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click that icon with a question mark within a square located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen. Currently sharing instructions on the screen for your reference. And I will go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access the Q&A panel and submit their requests. Seeing none, would you like me to close the Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. Okay, so I understand, Mr. Boudia, would you like to have some comment? I know you want to have some announcement.
Thank you so much, Madam President, and members of the board. I want to express to you our gratitude and also sadness. Clay Jackson, our regulatory attorney, will be leaving state service at the end of next week, but he has been an immense help with our board. As you see, we've gotten through several massive regulatory packages, and it is only because he's been able to put his attention on those. Clay, you have been an invaluable source of information and has saved us many days, if not months, in not having to bring language back. So thank you so much for your service, both to the board and to the public. And we wish you well on your continued journeys. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bodie, and thank you, Mr. Jackson, and for all your help for the board. So now I think if there's no other announcement, so we will come to our item 24. Thank you everyone for your participation in today's meeting, and thank you to the DCA moderator, IT team for all your assistance, and thanks to our board staff, executive officer, Jay, your team, and our new member, David Gurgman, also the team with policy coordinator, Christine Brothers. So everyone, I think you guys has been working day and night for the package. I really appreciate all your hard work. So I thank to our board members. It is really quite significant work for the board member has been contributed for the last 2 days, and for the ongoing learning, really for your dedication to serve this board, greatly appreciated. So our next scheduled board meeting is on June 24 and 25th. So the meeting is now adjourned at 4:35. Thank you, everyone.